In a pretty stunning turn of events, the far-right House Freedom Caucus today confirmed that they have booted Marjorie Taylor Greene from the group. This marks the very first time that the caucus has removed any member, much less one as vocal and prominent as Greene. Congressman Andy Harris, a member of the far-right group, said, quote, "A vote was taken to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene from the House Freedom Caucus for some of the things she's done." He called it an appropriate action. Another House Freedom Caucus member spoke with the Daily Beast saying, "I think there's been some disparagement that's been going on." And of course, it would be difficult not to assume that the quote-unquote disparagement is a reference to the recent feud that spilled out onto the House floor between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
Take your conversations to the back, off the floor. For what purpose does the gentlewoman... Order, please. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida, Mrs. Luna, seek recognition?
And when Greene was questioned about this feud on air, this is what she said.
Now, according to CNN, Daily Beast, and others, you accused your Republican colleague, Lauren Boebert, on the House floor of stealing or copying your impeach Biden resolution, and then called her a nasty little bitch. And I only use that word because you've confirmed it. Is this the media loving a cat fight? Because you haven't exactly shied away from this.
Well, you know, I find it unfortunate that Lauren Boebert leaked that conversation that we had to the press. But once she leaked it out, I had to confirm that that's in fact what I said. But here's the real issue. I've introduced articles of impeachment, and each time I do so, along with my other bills, I communicate with all of my Republican colleagues and ask for support by asking their co-sponsorship, because I co-sponsor many other Republicans' bills. In order to pass things on the House floor, we have to get 218 votes, and that means that we have to work together. I had asked her to co-sponsor my articles of impeachment against Joe Biden on the border, and she never responded and apparently refused to do so. Then when she introduced her own and forced them to the floor with a privilege resolution without even having the courage to talk to any other Republican in our conference before doing so, except Speaker McCarthy and apparently a few others, yeah, we had a tense conversation when she confronted me about things I had said about it. But this is unfortunate that this becomes public on the House floor.
Now, for those who missed it, the feud arose when Boebert used a procedural maneuver to force a vote on Biden's impeachment, which angered Greene because for months, she's been trying to introduce resolutions to impeach Joe Biden too. And so clearly, she wasn't thrilled at the prospect of Boebert swooping in and not only copying her idea, but using a procedure to get it onto the floor faster. And so now, Greene and Boebert are engaged in a turf war over who will be able to use their legislation to impeach Joe Biden for the crime of doing nothing, in case you were wondering how things were going in the party of Lincoln. And of course, let's not ignore the reason for these dueling impeachment pushes: fundraising. Boebert and Greene both knew that whoever could get this resolution onto the floor first could then exploit that accomplishment in an email pitch to supporters, saying something like, "I stood up for you and introduced articles of impeachment against the corrupt, evil, socialist, Marxist, communist Joe Biden. Help me continue to hold him accountable by donating to my campaign today," knowing full well that the impeachment resolution would go absolutely nowhere. But it's not about getting anything done. It is about selling a narrative to the suckers who trust them. Again, it's not about helping others, it is solely about helping themselves. Another wedge between Greene and the House Freedom Caucus has been Greene's support of Kevin McCarthy. She vocally supported him during his tumultuous bid to become Speaker, while the rest of the Freedom Caucus was such an impediment to him that because of them, it took him 15 rounds of voting to finally win the gavel. And just as an aside, I'm not sure which is worse, a militant faction of Republicans who extorted McCarthy for outsized power in the House, or the fact that the Speaker aligned himself with arguably the most extreme member of the House, thereby giving her outsized power in the House. Either way, the through line is clear. Whether Greene or her former caucus, the extremists have completely taken over the Republican Party. And look, will Greene's removal from the group have any discernible impact on her politics? No. She'll be prevented from attending weekly strategy sessions, sure, but let's not pretend that the strategy is going to be any different for Greene whether or not she's in the House Freedom Caucus. Republicans are there to do one thing: to prevent any meaningful legislation from getting passed because they don't want Joe Biden to succeed. And they'll do that by muddying the waters about Hunter Biden and gas stoves and whatever other conspiracy theories they can cook up. The last thing the GOP wants is for Americans to recognize the benefits that come from a party being in power that is actually responsive to the will of the people. And I know you've heard this before, but because the media refuses to remind anyone, I will. In just 2 years in office, Democrats passed the American Rescue Plan, rescuing the U.S. economy during COVID. They passed the infrastructure package, upgrading our nation's infrastructure for the first time in our lifetimes. They passed the first gun safety bill in 30 years. They passed the CHIPS Act, which has led to a boom in American manufacturing unlike anything we've seen in modern American history. They passed the PACT Act, giving health care to sick veterans. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act, allocating record funding to combat climate change, allowing the government to negotiate lower drug prices, and capping out-of-pocket costs for seniors. They brought down the cost of insulin to $35 a month. They created 13.5 million jobs with a 50-year low unemployment rate, including a record low unemployment rate for Black Americans. They reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. They oversaw the largest reduction in the deficit in history. They codified marriage equality for same-sex and interracial couples into federal law to help protect it from the far right-wing Supreme Court majority. And I can go on, but the point is clear. Democrats use their time in the majority to pass legislation that is popular and has real-life impacts on Americans. Meanwhile, the moment the Republicans took control of the House, what happened? The legislation stopped, and instead we were mired in months-long investigations into Hunter Biden that even by their own admission, they have no evidence to back up. Think about it this way. You go to work every day. You bust your ass. You probably put in too many hours for not enough pay. And even then, you still owe money to the government. Would you rather that government use your tax dollars to lower the cost of prescription drugs and create manufacturing jobs and bring down the cost of insulin and protect marriages? Or would you rather that money be squandered on countless breathless investigations into a private citizen who committed the cardinal sin of failing to pay his taxes in a timely manner one time? So yeah, take all the time you need with that one. So while there may be dysfunction within the Republican Party, frankly, that shouldn't come as anything of a surprise when the entire MO of the GOP is dysfunction. That's the point. That's all they know. That is why they were elected. Separating the Republicans from dysfunction is like separating sugar from candy. There would be nothing left. So maybe if the goal is a functioning government, we should focus on electing people who fundamentally believe in the government's ability to function. Because honestly, setting our tax dollars on fire in deference to a bunch of attention-craving narcissists hasn't delivered anything but chaos. And given today's news, that chaos isn't showing any signs of slowing down. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.